Peace and love. I am Zema Love Fire. I am a minister. I am an author of the New Food Culture and also the founder of the Indigo School of Light. And I would love to talk to you about Black people concerning our health and how we relate to COVID-19. COVID-19, why does COVID-19 affect people of color, Black people, more than other races? We have to take it back a little bit and talk about the history of our eating. We have to talk about our immune system and why it's affected. So I really want to go back and talk about our diet in the past. We can talk about slavery and how that affected us. I want to talk about going onto the slave ships and how they changed our whole diet with that. They started feeding us a lot of fats, a lot of things that we weren't used to, and a lot of slaves arrived here sick because of that, because we came from a culture of fresh vegetables, fresh air, fresh water, and we got into a situation where our diet was then transformed. And so what we call the soul food diet essentially came out of that. Soul food diet is wonderful, however, it's not good for our body in terms of health. And so we have to have that conversation about what it is we're putting into our bodies that is affecting our immune system, because our immune system is what keeps us healthy in the first place. We have a lot of fast foods that is pushed heavily in the Black communities. Processed foods are a part of that. We have a lot of genetically modified organisms. We've lost touch with consuming herbs like we used to, which is those old wives' tales that we used to hear about. Our grandparents used to grow things. We've gotten away from farming and growing our own foods and vegetables, so we've become completely dependent on other people to feed us. And that is a major component as to why we've been affected, because culturally, we have some of the worst eating habits than a lot of other cultures do, and that affects us immensely. And that puts our body in a constant state of inflammation. We have to go back to fresh fruits and vegetables. We have to start there. Canned vegetables aren't good for us. You know, there's a lot that comes with that. The lining actually produces a toxin. Frozen fruits and vegetables are better. Fresh fruits and vegetables are better. It used to be a time when we consumed very small portions of meat and bigger portions of fruits and vegetables and grains. I know a lot of elders would talk about if you got a piece of meat, that was kind of like a holiday thing. It wasn't the norm. And so we have to get back to proper portion sizes, getting out in the fresh air, start walking. You know, we've gotten away from our ability to meditate and heal ourselves, too dependent on the hospitals and the doctors to care for us all the time. And there's a lot of things we can do for ourselves as far as self-care. Things like positive affirmations and meditation really does help you with your focus, making better choices, choosing to study food and be a food researcher, reading the back of packages and understanding what those big words mean and how those are just chemicals masquerading as food. We're eating so much chemicals. So when you begin to understand what those chemicals are and how it affects the body and really getting into the study of it, it takes a little bit of time to do, but it's worth it because your health is worth it. When our immune system is affected, that's anything from heart issues, heart disease, high blood pressure, hypertension, all of the things that we already are experiencing in the communities that we know. And it's been strategically at high percentages in our communities. When you compare heart disease and poor health to Caucasian communities or even Spanish communities and Black communities, we are number one for the worst all the way across the board, with the highest amount of percentage of deaths related to those type of illnesses and those type of diseases, because again, we don't eat well and it has been affecting us. And because so many of these things are pushed in our communities, malt liquor is only really sold in Black communities. And so that's an issue. Malt liquor is one of the liquors that will deteriorate you and your liver the fastest than a lot of the other liquors. So it's very interesting to see that dynamic, how there's Perca Pizza, there's way more McDonald's or Wendy's or fast food restaurants in our communities than it is in non-Black communities. The grocery stores and everything is different. In our communities, we have more of what we call food stamp grocery stores that offer a lower quality of products. Typically in stores, you should have a low shelf option, a mid shelf, and like a high grade kind of option. Everything we get is kind of like the pick over that the other companies don't want, and so they send it to us. You know, it may be closer to its expiration date, not as fresh, you know, things like that. We have food deserts in our communities as well. That's a real big problem, where because people are on public transportation, they're literally buying their groceries from the gas stations. They can't even really get to a real grocery store, so their diet is limited to milk, bread, and eggs, maybe pasta products, ramen noodles that come in the little packs and things like that. So it's also a problem with accessibility for us as well. As an author of this book, The New Food Culture, I created this book as a guide for us because the problem is that we never know where to start. People want to start but don't know where to start. So this will help to kind of clarify that. You know, if you want to get back to the herbs and you want to get back to the fruits and the vegetables, and understanding what foods are more acidic up against what foods are more alkaline, because inflammation comes from having a highly acidic system from eating highly acidic foods. So if you can, you know, be able to manage that and get more into foods that are more alkalining, your body can start to balance out and self-heal itself and be able to get you back to a state of equilibrium, because we go from like an acute form of inflammation, and that just kind of festers to where you lose control of it. And that's when you start getting into the, you know, the heavier things where your organs and your tissues are starting to be affected. You have to do your research. You have to take time to study what it is that you're putting in your body. Look at the things in your cabinets and the things in your refrigerators and really study those things. You can go online and type in things you don't understand and pull up information. We're in the information age, you know? Everything is at our fingertips now, but you have to be willing to do the research. And so, you know, The New Food Culture by Zema Love Fire, you can find this on Amazon.com. That's one wonderful resource that you could use. Getting to what you're putting into your body, you can start as simple as growing simple herbs in your home. A little 99-cent pack of seeds, you know, can yield, you know, years worth of produce in your own backyard. So we also have to take back our power in how we're feeding ourselves, what we're feeding ourselves, where we're getting our products from. There's a lot of amazing black farms that are sprouting up here and there that you can also go and support. They have memberships where you can get huge discounts for being a member when you go shop with them weekly or monthly. That actually works out better than when you go to the regular outlets and things like that. So there's a lot of us that are out here doing powerful healing work, but you have to find us through your research. There's nothing to be afraid of to change, you know, your diet. You really can eat well, tasteful, colorful, beautiful recipes that are healthy and yet still taste good. Like, the main point I want to say is that you can eat healthy and it still be delicious. We feel like if we don't eat these greens with pork in it, that we won't have a good meal, and that's just not true. Find a farmer's market that has produce from all over the world. And every time you go shopping or every time you go to a grocery store, I encourage you to pick one fruit or one vegetable you've never tried before and learn how to cook it. Find a recipe for it and start introducing yourself to things that you wouldn't normally eat, things that come from the other side of the world. Give yourself permission to try something different before you judge it. We do a good job of judging things before we actually try them because we're so used to a certain pattern and we grew up on certain foods, and so we turn our nose up before we know how great other things can be. So give something new a chance. We can change as a collective, but change has to start from within, and we have to be willing to do the work, and we have to be willing to expand on our knowledge base when it comes to our health, because our health is our wealth, and if you don't have your health, you really don't have true wealth. I'm Zema Love Fire. Thank you for listening.